to open source GIS project start and finish. My name is Chris Bradshaw. I work for the Forsyth County MIS department in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And we have about 2,000 employees, and we do, our MIS department is spread pretty thin, the way most are these days. And we also recently reorganized so that we have a couple of large sections and a couple of small sections. My section happens to be rather small, which kind of works as a nice complement with Joe's MapServer team. So we have a couple of just two, you full-time?
Just 2 full-time and a couple part-time.
So what happened as the result of the reorganization is I changed over from an analyst position, server analyst position, to an emerging technology section, which was and is designed to be more of an R&D section. So I'm spread kind of thinly across a lot of the projects that we do. My sole responsibility is not Map for Site, but I've dedicated a lot of time to it because it's an excellent project. Anyway, so my section, like I said, is also a small section, section 2. There's my guy over there, Tom. And so we are limited in the projects that we can take on. But one of the appeals of our group is that we're cheap. We don't cost much. Because what we want to do, one of my main goals, was to expand the use of open source software throughout the county, not necessarily limited to the mapping department at all. And so that was my approach from the beginning, was to look for a way of implementing open source solutions rather than just kind of continuing on with our existing technology. Plus I have to justify my job. And once our department reorganized, we realized that we needed to become more proactive. We needed to go into the different departments and find out what they needed instead of waiting for them to come to us saying, oh, we bought this package, this software package, and it's not doing what we want it to do, so fix it, right? That wasn't going to work for us anymore, and trying to become more agile and more responsive to what the needs of the different departments are, we were trying to get out ahead of those things. So, So what we wanted to do was find out what their needs were and then stick with them throughout the entire project, and then, of course, continue support once that kind of the heavy lifting of the project was complete. Now, we're fortunate in that we have people like Skip, who is embedded with MapServer, but actually is part of our MIS department. But he's been able to dedicate a lot of his time in order to do the day-to-day work at MapServer, as well as work on this pilot project. So our project actually kind of began as a kind of a fortunate encounter where, having, like I said, fairly recently gotten the position and was still transitioning from old duties, which actually I never transitioned from, I just got more. I had to go down and do something. I could not remember what it was. I had to ask Joe. But I did remember it was, I had to go out and activate ports for his internet connection. It used to be called the wiring guy. But worse titles. I've been given worse titles. I saw a flyer he had posted down there, mentioning Red Hat, Linux, and said, hey, I'm looking for victims for my pilot project. Not victims, volunteers for my pilot project for Linux. And what happened next is that he's saying, well, there's a lot of open source GIS software. So I'm familiar with a lot of stuff across a lot of different areas, but not so much with mapping. So I wasn't aware of that. And so once he told me that, and I realized that I could apply what I had, which was open source knowledge plus server space, then it, just that was the beginning of a collaboration between our two departments. It was simple as that. I was down there for something else. I engaged with Joe about, I think we started talking about being fellow grass, but then moved on to more serious business. So, but at any rate, we were it's a lot to be said for combining resources as far as in government. And in our case, we were working with solving two goals kind of simultaneously, which was that I needed a pilot project for the open source, and they were looking for a way of finding an alternative to Esri, to our GIS. It cost us virtually nothing to start the project. It was just, I want to do this, you wanted to do this, and it began. There wasn't any need to negotiate for trial software or work through, any type of limited support contract or anything like that. Even in terms, so actually, in terms of cost beyond, the person hours put into it, like I said, we're using existing resources. So I created the server as a virtual server, and then as far as the man hours go, I'm working on this mostly in between other duties. And I'll bring this up for a point I'll get to in a minute, but my main thing, and this is what I would think that everyone would need in projects, is you have to have the support of your higher level folks. So I'm really fortunate to have a manager that is behind the idea of investigating open source software. Our director was willing to do that, and even our county manager sees a lot of value in the open source work. So what the risk is that there's a lack of knowledge and a lack of public awareness, or just general awareness of what's out there, particularly in open source. I mean, that's why we are the IT department in that regard, is to assist the other departments in determining what their needs are. And so part of that is educating ahead of time, instead of just saying, well, here's how we can continue using your same software, your same solution. How about this? And in my case, I said, how about open source software? Joe said, here's a couple of packages to look at, and I went back and did my due diligence and reported to him what I thought how we should proceed next. It has been hand in hand the whole way, and Skip as well. We're all sitting together at the table or communicating via email, and then even more recently, having collaboration using Google Drive. So again, like I said, I only had a passing experience with mapping. I had a recollection of my mom having a topographic map when I was really young, and I was kind of fascinated by that. I learned some orienteering through hiking, and then about 5 years ago, I was sent to our fire department to analyze their operations and see if we could kind of streamline things over there, and sat with a very patient man who explained a lot about about the mapping that they were doing. I think he explained it once or 500 times. So also my background in Linux, I'm going to make sure that it's a slight distinction there, is pretty recent. I started out using an Apple II when I was pretty young. All right, then show Apple some love, right? And I stuck with them as long as I could, but like a lot of people have discovered, Mac has its limitations when it comes to the business world. Also had some severe limitations when it comes to gaming, so I had to have the Windows for games. And then, but prior to that, when I was at Appalachian, we used OpenVMS. And I don't know how anyone has used this aside from me and 4 other people, but it was a solid operating system. And then I hadn't been at the county very long, and I got moved into a new position, and I mentioned that, oh yeah, I've used OpenVMS, and I was then labeled a resident expert and handed the keys to our entire library system. So that caused me some headaches, some long nights, long weekends, trying to figure out how this stuff worked. But I stuck with it, kept the library system. So flash forward about 14 years, about 15 years. And we were with a software company called Cersei, and we're paying them rough estimate, well, not that rough, but kind of a rounding thing, with hardware cost plus support. Once we were paying them $100,000 a year, and the library wasn't using all of that, all of the functionality of that. So I started looking for an alternative and found Evergreen, which was another open source system. So I had gone from managing the library system, eventually moved from OpenVMS to Unix, and that's why I make that distinction between my recent knowledge of Linux and then my 10, 15, whatever years of Unix. So that kind of helped me make that transition once I caught that open source bug. So with that knowledge, I felt like it was possible to make a transition to an open source system. Now I don't say confident that we could, because it was a perception issue. So people would think Linux, well, I don't understand a lot about it. I don't understand a lot about open source software, therefore I'm not going to engage with it. You're just going with your intuition. But counterintuitive thinking actually kind of opens up a lot of possibilities. Let's get out of our comfort zone and actually dig in and see what's going on with this stuff. And so when I made that pitch, my manager, he was very receptive. I also was able to educate him on some, don't get me wrong, we're working in IT. Everybody in our IT department had at least some passing knowledge of Linux. I don't want to say I'm the only one. But nobody was actively working with it. And so there was, like I said, there was some misinformation and a lack of general knowledge about it. And so one of the things that I wanted him to know was, okay, we don't have that knowledge base in the county, but we don't necessarily need to pay for support either. If any of you use Linux, you know that the support that you get from the community is unprecedented. I mean, we're talking rabid zealots for Linux. It's great. I mean, they will respond almost instantaneously if you can't find the answer already out there. I mean, that's what it was for, right? All right, so the other thing was you can make the transition to open source without losing any practical functionality. And Skip is going to demonstrate that to you, that it's not just me talking, he actually has pictures and stuff on that. So when I met with Joe and Skip about doing this project, I mean, I actually got really excited about it. Like I said, I've been working for Forsyth County for over 16 years and had done IT, of course, before that, but this was the first time that I actually got excited about software once I saw what it could do. Okay, like I said, I hadn't had a lot of experience with it before, so I'm coming at it kind of from the newbie perspective, but it really delivered that wow factor. And when I saw how you can integrate the data into a map and then project that map showing all sorts of different information, I mean, you can't help but kind of go, wow, I mean, there's so much that we can do with this. And, you know, I mean, the coolest thing I'd seen was supporting our dental clinic. They got a module that had 3D images. That was cool, but a one-trick pony. So, you know, and also you look at a paper map, you can think about all the work that went into it. It's great, it's cool, especially the topographic maps. But as impressive as they are, they're still static. So when you bring computers into the mix, you start opening up all of those possibilities for web mapping, and it becomes more of a creativity thing, which kind of So while I'm looking for that place that this pilot project could land, I'm also looking for ways of integrating a lot of data into our processes so that we can kind of get a handle on a lot of things that have just been sort of going either through luck or, you know, just willpower that things are working in the county in certain respects. I thought, you know, if we could get enough data, enough research, then we would understand what we were up against and what we needed to do. So one thing after I talked with Joe and Skip was I recall that my brother, probably 20 plus years ago, had showed me how to import crime data into, I don't know if it was Google Maps. Back then it must have been Yahoo or MapQuest or something. So he was living in DC, and he imported the crime data and said, this is where I live, and it's surrounded by a bunch of red dots. And so he was like, yeah, we'll do. And I should have paid closer attention to that. I was loud then, and I just kind of went right over my head, and he kind of stuck with it, and now he's one of the big dogs for web dev at New York Times. And so I'm a little late to that party. He figured it out. He's my younger brother, too. So I should have paid more attention to what he was doing. But while I was doing the testing the installs for the things you showed up here to hear about, I did really see that how it can be applied to virtually anything. It really is, if you can think of it, do it type of technology. Well, I did get my crash course in mapping from Joe and Skip, and they started by showing me QGIS, which is a desktop application for creating maps, and Skip will demo that in a bit. And then we narrowed our focus on all of the different open source mapping software that's out there, and there's more than you would expect if you don't already know. We decided to limit it to MapServer and GeoServer. And I installed both, but then initial work was done on MapServer. So there's just a couple of things I want to point out. Is when I was looking for this project, I didn't have any preconceived notions of what that was going to be. And I knew that there was going to be a knowledge deficit. But part of my mission in emerging technology, what I was given kind of a directive was, do not be afraid to fail. Wow, that's like getting a blank check. So when we decided to do this project, I had to pick the one that was most likely to break, which felt like it was going to on numerous occasions. However, if you want to learn something, as I found out, there's two really good ways of learning things. One is break something that has to be fixed, and do a project. Well, I needed more practical experience with Linux. I also needed to have something real world to show. Now, when we're trying to decide between GeoServer and MapServer, we had kind of a limited amount of time to do research, and most of what we heard about MapServer was it was a real workhorse, that it was just going to crunch those maps and we could make them available as a web mapping service for other GIS departments to grab. And then found that it was really kind of difficult to work with. So we decided that we were going to move over to GeoServer for a couple of reasons. One is GeoServer kind of made a leap and was able to do those things that GeoServer could. GeoServer was doing more things and better than MapServer, and it just took some time to realize that. We had to work through a little bit of hit and miss with MapServer, trying to sort that out. Anyway, the other reason too that we stuck with GeoServer is it's much prettier. So I'm happy with this. And we just didn't have any reason to continue working with MapServer. So that's one of the benefits of having a pilot project and not having to pay for anything, is we could go, we're done. On to the next thing. This is a loser. But just as a quick rundown of MapServer was, I installed it on Debian 7. There's obviously a lot of choices that we could make here. We were using PostgreSQL and PostGIS for a database. And it could be done, some development I think in Python, because that was another reason why, was scripting. Some of the functionality could be done in Python, which if you're not familiar with that scripting language, I'm not going to say it's easy to learn, but it's one of the easiest to learn. So, and really, really good for working with OpenSource. Now, I had to compile this stuff from source because when I went looking for additional mapping software, I went to Debian GIS, which is more or less a listing of everything of the GIS products that Debian supports in their distribution. So by compiling from source, then it opened up a lot of kind of issues here that we had with it, is because in that repository, it has MapServer that you can download and install pretty easily, but it's not always the newest version and seemed too easy. So it was like another part of the project, like I said, was to try and gain some new skill sets as well. Now, you get kind of really cool errors when you're working with Linux. Slightly more informative than Windows errors, but for instance, I get one that says configure error could not find, and it's just a bunch of junk, proj_api.h. It's real clear, real. But once you've kind of gone on the hunt for those sorts of dependencies, it gets a lot easier to track them down once you see how the directory structure works in Linux. It'll start being able to make those connections between, say, Windows Explorer or the Finder on OS X and the way that the directory structure works in Linux. And I'm talking command line stuff, not the graphical interface. So, I mean, you might as well use it if it's there. I typically don't, just because of the Unix background. Again, so it's not as difficult as it might initially seem. So yeah, so Debian straight off the bat had a whole segment of their user base, of their support base, dedicated to GIS, which I thought was a pretty good indication of the kind of quality that we could expect from that operating system. The other thing about working with Linux and not being intimidated by some of its aspects is that Windows has Windows Update. And it just, you set it, tells you update, or you set it so that it doesn't even notify you and you're off and running. Well, Linux has similar tools that work in similar ways, so it's not any real challenge to install software or update your system. And also many times you can do a rather massive update of drivers and other software and not even have to reboot. So that's always an additional benefit. Now, let's see. I chose Debian for a couple of reasons. One is personal. I'm not trying to cause any controversy between Debian and Red Hat, but they have a different approach. And I've worked with both. So when I started using Linux with Red Hat, I think it was version 4, version 6. All I will tell you is that it didn't have an auto-loading GUI, so you had to start that from the command line. And once I started using it at the county, I discovered that we needed support contract in order to get the newest updates, which, I mean, that's fine if you want to pay out money. But yet another part of my mission was to save money and not get caught up in the whole support cycle where you become dependent upon a vendor, not only for support, but for actually getting your software and your updates. There is a community-supported version of Red Hat called Fedora, but similar situation. You're waiting for it to filter down from Red Hat. All right. So once all those decisions were made, we decided to settle on GeoServer and found that there was a slight learning curve there as well, because instead of running off of a web server, it's running off of a container, Apache Tomcat. So it was a slightly different way of installation and where the files were going to live. The coolest thing, though, was that the integration between QGIS and the GeoServer was really simple. We installed a plugin which has the awesome name SPIT, which stands for Shapefile to Host GIS Import. Maybe they'll come up with something a little better. So once we made that connection from QGIS into the database, well, the rest kind of became just kind of academic, and it was more of a desire to tweak the install and work on security, work on speeding up the response time, and then kind of branch out. So I'm going to turn it over to Skip, who is one of our programmers at Forsyth County and has been working with the mapping department now for over a year. So he's going to show you the exciting stuff. And
how y'all doing?
good.
All right. Is there any Esri reps or any Esri employees in here? So I'm going to say the doors are right here. You might want to step on out. Now, how many people use Esri products every day? Yeah, here it comes. ArcMap, ArcCatalog. Well, let me show you something else. We have been working with Quantum GIS, which, there's definitely Quantum GIS if you want to read it. It does work on Unix, Windows, and Mac. It's people think open source, you know, like Chris was talking about, it's not powerful, and just people come up and just write this stuff and say, hey, I just want to put some code on the screen. No, this is a really strong application right here. Like I said, the new version right now is called DOFR. It's 2.01. It's GUI, similar interface to, I'm an old guy, so I say ESRI, but it's ISRI. I've been a GIS analyst and software developer for about 9 years now. Started doing engine work, but I'm going into more of the web development now. Now, if these were covered up, can you see any difference? Any difference at all? Which I'm going to go into a demo. We're going to pull it up and play with it a little bit here. This is basically a simple map that I pulled in, bringing in Forsyth County. This is the restaurant grades here, which is always good to know. This includes the schools and the rest homes and all this stuff too. We'll play with that a little bit on the web. The reason I want to show this is you can see Quantum GIS has the ability, a simple ability to do mapping. It's a lot stronger than that because you can bring in the power of graphs and R for real deep statistical analysis. Basically, on my end of GIS, I'm more of a developer, so I don't get to do the heavy cartography or the heavy work on it. So my stuff might look a little primitive, but I can get the point across. We have a great, I don't call him mapper, no, he's a great analyst back at work, so he takes over the big loads. He just lets me write stuff. So, like I said here, QGIS is used for creating base maps, oh, that's the thing, ready guys? You can stick with your ISRI products, there ain't no problem. Quantum can read file databases. So if you kind of think about all these people that are using like just simple ArcView, and how much money you're spending on that right now, especially for your maintenance agreements and everything else, Quantum can do it. You can read, you can edit geodatabases. So there's your connection back to your bigger players.
Can it do connect to a GIS server as well?
Yeah,
Now, the thing is right now, it could at 9.3, but it can connect to any spatial database. So, and you know when you install, I've done a lot of installs and stuff too in my network, but when you install SDE, then on the database themselves, they don't want you to put any spatial, like Oracle spatial or anything like that. They want to keep it and let SDE use it. So, no, for right now, it really can't do that. There is some cool tricks on GeoServer that you can do, that you can take some stuff from. Like I said, for data creation, creating styles. Styles are now an extra, well, for QGIS, they are incorporated into your, everybody knows map files. It's integrated to your project, but you'll see a benefit right now that when you create your style for your application, when we did a map, you can export that style and incorporate it right into GeoServer. So then you don't have to spend hours in there when you do your web maps and recreate the styles. Like I said, remember back here, kind of get that in your mind right there, that image right there. Oh, by the way, there is a cool plugin right here. This is called QNotes. You can type all your notes you want for your project, and every time you open it up, hey, there's your notes sitting right there. That is the code I use to set up my styling for my restaurant dots up there. So, like I said, we're getting to this part. There's that open layer plugin. Anybody be able to steal a bunch of WMSs from other places? Like Google, OpenStreetMap, Yahoo, Bing, even your ArcGIS server. You can get WMS services from it. Platforms, like we were talking about, basically we're using Windows 7 right now. I do Is there any VMware people in here? I love VMware because it's the only way I can play with Mac and Linux at the same time. But it runs on all 3 operating systems. I have all 3 operating systems on my VMware. It comes up just fine. And like I said, the latest version of it is due for it, which is a big jump from the older version. It's a lot stronger, and believe it or not, I think they kind of like made it closer to ArcMap that way. So let's go for a little demo here. I'm gonna sit down if that's okay. I hate to put my back to y'all, but I am a loud person. You should be able to hear me when it bounces off the wall and hits you back in the face. All right, here we go. Let's play with some Quantum GIS. Now, be honest, this laptop is a loaner, very unpowerful, so here it comes, GeoServer.
So for somebody who hasn't used QGIS and are strictly...
I'm telling you right now, we got somebody at work right now.
Yes.
That analyst I was telling you about,
Yes.
he started playing with it this week and catching on real quick.
So a good demo would be to bring somebody from out here who's used to using ArcGIS and put it behind them.
Sure, if we had the time. That's the problem, if we had the time. Okay, it's basically use your desktop for QGIS. Just basically simple tools. We were talking about playing with the, look at it. Here's that open layer one I was telling you about. Then you bring any of those web map services in to play with. It's really easy to work with. You want to grab more plugins. There's a lot of plugins out there to do a bunch of different work. Database. On this laptop right here, I have Postgres, free. And then it has a plugin called PostGIS. PostGIS is SDE. Basically, that's all it is. So let's go ahead and pull in a project right here. Yes, I have some pre-made. Let's go to restaurants. Just to show you that same one we were doing there. Boom, there it is. Let's close that one. I'll just pull that one real quick. Now, let's pull in library. Well, let's go have some fun. Let's pull in edit. Okay, this is basically all our nice little brownfield sites. Does everybody know what brownfield means? Hazmat, or facade county. Now, we're going to go ahead and bring in a file geodatabase to go with this. Basically, there's the word, is your file geodatabase. You browse to it, and actually I'm right there on it. Everybody knows a file geodatabase usually is a folder that has GDB on the end of it. Select, open. There's everything I've got in there. So let's go ahead and just add something simple because it's full county size. Let's add the libraries. There they are. So then, hey, there's a pencil. There's the edit tool. Let's just move something. We just say, well, this library right here, I think it's just too close to some some bad stuff there. Save, which edits. Let's save that. And you can see that was a file geodatabase I just edited. Other things are on here, like, been playing with this. We were playing with a land use. Basically, a land use polygon that we built using another open source project called 9, and really making a fat polygon, filling it full of good data that we can basically manipulate around. And like I said, this is a loaner PC. Quantum usually doesn't take as much resources as ArcGIS does, but for this PC sometimes, oh well, I'm going to play today. Let's just go back to this here. Oh, look at that. Yes, I'm so used to doing presentations. Sorry, people. Okay, GeoServer. Like my partner here, Chris, is talking about, GeoServer is open source. Basically, it runs on Tomcat, which you've got Apache Tomcat, which is easy to install onto, like I got it on Microsoft here. It is pushes out WMSs, with, also it can push out feature services, because there's your editing. If anybody knows how to do any ArcGIS web mapping, that's where you're, just like you do feature services, web feature service here. You can even pull in old coverages and actually WMS. Like I said, it runs on all the operating systems using Tomcat and JRE's 1.7. Like I said, here it is, GeoServer. WMS, I'm blocking everybody over here, I'm sorry, I'm a big guy here. WMS, WFS, coverages, web processing, which is your geoprocessing stuff, and also KMLs. Does everybody know what KML is, basically? Anybody doing Google stuff? Oh, the KML is Google. And then data source. Shapefiles, rasters, including JPEGs and PNGs. It goes even heavier. You can do Mr. SIDS and everything else like that. Spatial database is a PostGIS that runs on Postgres. Like I said, well, all that's free. Creating style files in QGIS. So if this thing brought back up real quick, I'll show you how a style file looks like. And basically, well, we'll just go over this part. QGIS desktop to Postgres, save your data. You can push it to GeoServer, or you can push Quantum GIS right over to the server itself to your web maps. Your web maps do editing and everything, and push it right back. All right, web applications, yeah. Basically, it uses the best JavaScript I've seen so far to use is basically open layers JavaScript API. A lot easier. I'm talking about a lot easier than using Israel's JavaScript API. I do both. A lot easier. Pulls in WMS and WFSs. Basically, can pull in anything. Also, you can use the Google API version 3. Show you a little example on that because we only got 10 minutes. What it does, you can trick the Google API on this and don't even use any Google Maps. Use strictly your own data. But you can pull in some of the fancy stuff that Google API does. So what's that right here? Okay, good. We're at the demo part. That's what I want to be. All right, we'll just. Oh, by the way, if you weren't on, yeah, close your thing. Now, Chris was talking about a cool tool, which is also on the Windows version of it. This is how you import your data right into PostGIS. You grab a shape file and set it up, and I mean, it just installs it that quick. Okay, let's go. Oh, you gonna be nice. Huh? I don't think it's going to be nice, is it? Like I said, this is laptop. It doesn't take much resources at all to run this fast. It doesn't at all. There we go. Now, has anybody work on ArcGIS server? Be able to push out services and stuff like that? Guys, I'm telling you right now, this is a lot easier. It's more easy to work with. The gravity data. To build your services, you have better ways of keeping your services together. Basically, you build workspaces and then stores. Your stores are your connectors. Like I said, you can connect to shape files, or you can connect, I love going to just my PostGIS database. Because then I can play with Q, do a simple update, and it's already connected to this. It'll show the changes on the web. Basically, you have a whole section for styles, which you can import styles. And you see I already got a few in there. Styles are just XML format. Real easy to learn, but you can pull in an SLD, which is XML, and just import it and call it what you want to call it. If anybody's really interested, I'll just pull one in real quick and you can see XML. Simple technology right there. All right, let's have some fun here. Let's just go ahead and pull up an app. If this poor little computer can do it. Oh, there it is. Forsyth County food establishments. All right, this is using the open layers. Simple, I don't know if anybody does any web development here, but I'm telling you right now, these controls are real easy. There's your legend. Simple, easy to cut off and cut on. Open Layers has a real easy overview map. Sorry, I got stuff bigger than it should be on here. But here's some stuff I play with. Now, I'm going to tell you guys, 3 days worth of work from scratch. There it is. 3 days. And I never worked with Open Layers, JavaScript or anything. So let's go have some fun here. I'll set it up so we have the ability to download some layers. And I'm going to do my favorite one first. Let's go ahead and download KML. This poor little thing can do it. Come on, come on. There it goes. Just as easy to share data with anybody. And here's my dog and pony show. And we're not on the internet. Oh, it wants to go bigger. That's all right. Google Earth. Which it doesn't want to run. Huh? Joseph's going to hold up 5 minutes in a second. Here we go. Come on, come on, come on. There it is. Your data. Brings in all the styles with it. All the nice little pop-ups that shows everything on that. It came with the KML. Also, we got the man. Which I'm way off, ain't I? Oh well. Which anybody's played with Google Earth has played with this before. Then, if you want to share data with people, you can go do a simple shapefile. That's coming off our database. Create a shapefile for you. You can give to whoever needs it or needs data, because everybody's sharing data anyway. Can also do, like I said, oops, that's my layers. I only have one extra layer here. We're using the whole county behind those points is a tile cache system. Did I have to go and physically cache it? No. GeoServer did it all for me. Just when I imported it, it said, do you want to make tiles out of it? Yes. Then you can take a little tool in there and say, hey, let's join a bunch of layers together. That's what it did. It makes one little service out of it. Do that in ESRI that quick. So, like I said, I've got it set up so you can do multiple different types of downloads and put in Excel. I only got 5 minutes, people, sorry. Got any type of image you want to show. Now that XML file there will bring the whole maps XML and the shape, the style and everything else and put it around Google Earth. So the whole county will be yellow on that one. Then, told you how you use the Google API. This little boy can do it here, come on, come on. There it is. I am using the Google API for this map. There is no Google map service running on here whatsoever. I'm just using the API. Ability to trick that. Now the only problem, one little problem using the Google API, using web map services, WMS, it can't read the files. So I can't do pretty pop-ups and showing, okay, this is all this information here. It just basically just says, here's the points. But, you see the little man over there too? I still can use the little man, even though this is my little map. There you go. Now guys, there's so much we could talk about Quantum GIS and also GeoServer. Sorry we only have an hour. I'm going to give the last few minutes. So any questions? Come on guys, gotta have some questions. Chris, give me an answer question, will you? Oh, we got a question.
And it's not a question, but
Oh, no.
I'm gonna be a supporter, I'm gonna be a cheerleader for you.
Go for it.
I'm from Catawba County, and we implement this as well. Our whole real estate lookup site was developed using GeoServer, all the things you just mentioned. So money-wise, huge savings. Now, we're still in Esri shop,
Yeah.
so we use both. So I'm definitely a cheerleader, but it's portable from desktop to your tablet to your smartphone, making the map look good. So much more powerful and easy to do. So, Skip, I'd like your card. I'd like to get my
No
developer
problem.
and you in contact.
That sounds great to
with each
me.
other, and then, maybe you guys do.
Just to go, one second, I just want to go on a question right there. Why keep a a one-horse shop? I mean, come on, guys, go hybrid. I mean, you can run your Esri stuff, or excuse me, Esri stuff, and your open source stuff together. Yes, ma'am.
This past summer, I'm a college
Heads
student.
up.
I'm a college student, and
Uh-huh.
I'm a urban planning and GIS major. And this past summer, I worked on one of the longest running water quality lake projects in Virginia. And with GIS, we did worked on the server. We use ESRI, and I helped to work on the server to every time we put new data into our Excel spreadsheets, it automatically goes to the server, and then that automatically goes to DEQ, which is the Department of Environmental Quality. And this sounds so much easier. It took us about 3 months to get that
Well,
set up.
it really is. It's a lot easier. I wish I had more time to demo stuff, but yeah, I have just edited stuff in Q that's running, keeping the stuff in PostGIS, my database. Pulled it right up and refreshed my map, and it's all changed on the web too, that quick. So, I mean, granted, we update we have actually our GIS server too. It takes a little bit more to do that, especially if you cache stuff. Here, it doesn't matter because it basically recaches it for you in tiles. Basically, if you want to get depth, you can choose what kind of tiles you want. I'm just throwing JPEG up here, but you can do PNG or anything else you want.
So,
My bathroom.
so either both shops, saying you're running both ESRI as whatever, and then also this. What's your license agreement? So you'll have like with ESRI. Because like
Right now,
the
the
exact
county,
number we
I
have
can
is-
tell you on that, on the county, where our maintenance agreement runs about $60,000 a year. We're looking at to replace this next year, at least our, what they call ARC Basic now, ArcView, I'm an old guy.
Yeah.
ArcView licenses with Quantum. Because granted, it's going to take just a little bit more manipulating to do the file geodatabases, but hey, that's what Python or Autobuild is out there. Let's just make that automatic built out there and bring it in, and bring it into your SDE. Now, like I said, I'm kind of waiting for someone to come up with a plugin for SDE 10 or 10.1 or 2. But remember, between 9.3, I'm a developer. Between 9.3 and 10, ArcGIS, major changes done to their objects. I mean, I had to do a big rewrite, which took me about 3 months because of all the different library changes and stuff. I don't get too technical, I'm a developer. But, so we're looking at really to take over to ArcView for that. And also for new people who want GIS to start looking at their data and doing simple or even complex, if they get into it, spatial analysis. Quantum's there for it. We use it for some processes in our shop already that Israel can't do. So just keep your eyes, we said it's open source, but keep an open mind on open source. Doesn't cost anything except a little space and time. Like Chris was talking about, you will not believe the communities out there for Quantum GIS, GeoServer, for learning. I mean, it's just out there. If you want to get books, Packet is the company to get it from. They have great books on open source, or especially open source GIS, to be able to manipulate everything. I know we're running late on this, I'm sorry, but I guess I'll speak for Chris and I. Thanks for coming, and more people than I thought would show up around here. I don't think anybody knows how to find this room. If we'll be here for more time, if anyone wants to talk about anything else, or
You feel free to contact us.
Please, I
Joe,
have cards up here if anybody wants them.
because if you want the basic install version of how to do things, you come to us. We'll show you, we
Oh.
started from nothing.
Quantum GIS installments are very easy.